Hi, I'm Yamaoka from Kyoto University, Japan. I will talk about the position of the medial in the syllable structure in Hanoi Vietnamese from an articulatory perspective. Hanoi Vietnamese syllables involve medial W as a constituent. Its syllable templated here, but its position within the syllable structure is controversial. Some researchers regard the medial part of the rhyme. On the other hand, others regard as part of the onset. However, neither of these offer the articulatory data of the medial. In this presentation, I will argue that Hanoi Vietnamese medial W is part of the rhyme, and it is rising-diphthong-like segment from the articulatory perspective. Based on these articulatory data and acoustical data, I will talk about the previous research first, and then I will examine the medial effects on onset articulation based on ultrasound lingual data and video recording of lip movement. After that, I will examine the medial effects on rhyme articulation based on the normalized vowel formant transition data. And I remark the conclusion. Before starting my talk, I show you the overview of Hanoi Vietnamese syllables. Hanoi Vietnamese syllables are composed of onset, medial, vowel, coda, and tone. The syllable constituents can take these phonemes respectively. The interpretations of red-colored phonemes depend on my recent researches. These interpretations differ little from the general interpretation of Vietnamese phonology. Then I explain about the previous research. Previous claims can be divided into two types. First claim regard the medial as part of the rhyme, which is mainly based on the phonological behavior of the rhyme as a unit. These behaviors can be observed through rhyming, Big Latin, or reduplication patterns, and so on. Here, red characters indicate medial, bold and underlined characters indicate rhyme unit, that is to say, phonological grouping, through this phenomenon. In this phenomena, medial shows two kinds of behaviors. In the left one, medial behaves as part of the rhyme, and in the right one, medial behaves as out of rhyme. Based on the speaker's intuitions, left behaviors is more unmarked, so these researchers claim the medial is part of the rhyme. On the other hand, second claim regards the medial as part of the onset, which is mainly based on consonant-like auditory impression of medial. Thompson regards the medial as part of consonant cluster because it is similar to English W. Covey also regards the medial as part of the onset, but he interprets as secondary articulation of onset. Generally speaking, it is hard to define glides occurring in the rhyme, so these analyses are also possible. However, neither of these researches do not offer the articulatory data of the medial. So Yamaoka 2020A, my recent research, examined the articulatory property of the medial, which observed the medial articulation is independent from both onset and vowel. But it has not clearly argued about the position of medial in the syllable structure. In this talk, I will examine the position of medial from the articulatory perspective. First, I will examine the medial effects on onset articulations. W articulation is composed of both dorsal and labial articulation. To observe the dorsal articulation, I use an ultrasound data which can see the midsagittal lingual shape. For the labial articulation, I use an MP4 format video of the lip movement. First, I explain about the effect on dorsal articulation of the onset. This figure refers the midsagittal lingual shape traces during articulations of these syllables. In this figure, tongue tip is placed on the right and dorsal is on the left. The colorful lines indicates onset consonant. Red lines indicates its syllable has th onset, and blue lines indicate its syllable has l onset. And the type of lines indicates measurement time. Solid line indicates onset part of non-medial syllable. Dot line indicates that of medial syllable, and broken line indicates medial part of medial syllable. Here, solid lines and dot line coincide each other. So, the existence of a medial does not affect onset lingual articulation, which means that tongue retraction occurs after onset release. And then I explain the effect on labial articulation of the onset. I prepared 2 videos of lip movement, both of which start from the frame just before the onset release. Left one is of non-medial syllable. Like this. In this video, mouth opens without lip rounding. And right one is of medial syllable. In this video, lip rounding occurs after onset release. These observations support that medial articulation occurs after onset release, so onset and medial articulation are sequential, or antiphase as in the figure below. This means the medial is not secondary articulation of onset. Then I will explain the medial effects on rhyme articulation. In this section, I used the normalized vowel formant transition data. Recording sounds are obtained by monosyllable word reading task for 14 Hanoi Vietnamese speakers. And I analyze these sounds as follows. Annotate onset and offset of vowel or glide formant which correspond to 0% and 100% point as in the spectrogram below. And I extract F1 and F2 and measurement time at 10 points per syllable as below. After that, I normalize following values by means of Gerstmann's so-called range normalization, which can be represented as the function below. Before showing the results, I mention about one articulatory tendency of Hanoi Vietnamese, that is the isochrony of the rhyme. Hanoi Vietnamese rhyme tends towards a stable duration, whatever construction it takes. For example, these rhymes with rising tone pronunciated like a, ear, an, yen, and so on. This tendency seems to be related to assigning its complicated tonal melodies, which enables preserve its tonal contour. The domain of this isochrony is rhyme, but not syllable, because onset and rhyme duration do not compensate each other, as in the right graph. In this graph, Orange bar indicates onset duration, and blue bar indicates rhyme duration. While onset duration can be considerably changed, rhyme duration tends towards a stable duration. Then I show the results. This is normalized F1 transition in rhymes involving long R vowel. F1 is an acoustical parameter corresponding to openness. Long R rhyme can be divided into 4 types depending on whether it has medial or coda. Blue rhymes have none of them, which keeps wider openness from start to end. Yellow rhyme has medial only, which has narrow openness in its initial part. Orange rhymes have coda only, which have narrow openness in its final part. And green rhymes have both of them, which have narrow openness in both initial and final parts. In this graph, all transition contours are arranged in its onset release, the point of 0 on the x-axis. Here, dotted circle indicate medial or coda articulation. The graph shows that coda articulations of orange and green rhyme coincide each other. This result means that the existence of a medial do not affect the timing of the coda articulation. Furthermore, considering the isochrony of the rhyme, the medial must be part of the rhyme. This is because vowel and medial duration compensate each other. This feature is unlike onset. Here, a new question arises. Are medials and vowels the same? Concerning this question, I assume that medials and vowels behave differently in their time mapping. To explain this property, I introduced tripartite temporal units from my research, Yamaoka 2020C. Normalized formant transition data exhibits temporal symmetry as in this graph. Transition contours in this graph exhibit a line symmetry with respect to the x-axis. Moreover, it seems that Hanoi Vietnamese rhyme has 3 articulatory timing: rhyme initial, rhyme central, and rhyme final. From this observation, I assume that Hanoi Vietnamese rhyme is composed of tripartite temporal units like X slots or moras. These timing units usually associate with one segment. In blue rhyme, 3 units are associated with vowel. In yellow rhyme, medial takes 1 unit and vowel takes other 2. In orange rhyme, coda takes 1 unit and vowel takes other 2. In green rhymes, medial, coda, and vowels take 1 unit respectively. But there is one exception, that is rhymes having both medial and short vowel. This graph shows F1 transition of short R rhyme. Green rhyme have medial, but orange one does not. From these formant contours, orange and green rhymes are assumed to be associated like this. Here, this unit is associated with both medial and short vowel, that is taking contour value. This behavior of medial is rising-diphthong-like. This rising-diphthong-like contour mapping is contrastive with falling diphthong mapping. Hanoi Vietnamese have these falling diphthong rhymes, which are assumed to be associated as below. These rhymes do not take contour value in their association, unlike medial with short vowel. So my conclusion is this. Hanoi Vietnamese medial is part of rhyme from an articulatory perspective, and Hanoi Vietnamese medial is a rising-diphthong-like segment based on its articulatory time mapping. Here are references. Thank you for your attention.